Am I the asshole for possible causing a divorce in my wife, 31F, best friend, 32F, marriage? My wife, 31F, and Amy, 32F, are best friends for about 15 years. About 2 months ago Amy gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Me, 34M, and my wife have 4 children, 3F, 4F, 4M, 6F, so we have been helping Amy and her husband Jake, 29M, because we know how hard and stressful the first few months with a newborn can be, specifically because they are first-time parents. My wife planned a girls' night at our house and invited her friends. She does that once a month. When my wife hosts those nights at our place, I usually go out with some of my friends to a nearby bar. Amy and Jake moved to our city around 1 year ago because Amy wanted to stay close to her parents and she had a better job opportunity in our town. Since they moved here, Jake has no family or friends nearby, except me, so I decided to invite him to come with my other friends to the bar. Jake is very shy and reserved. He doesn't talk a lot, but he is a great guy. When we arrived at the bar, I tried to push Jake a little to interact with the other guys, but his answers were always short and simple, and then I told the rest of the guys that Jake was a first-time father and that his daughter was born 2 months ago. Finally, a conversation that Jake seemed to engage. The other guys in my friend group are a bit older than me, so most of them are parents, and things were going pretty well until a friend told us that the first time he thought, "Holy shit, I am dad," was when he cutted the cord after his wife gave birth. After hearing this, Jake went a bit silent and said that he wasn't present at the delivery room when his wife gave birth. Then he asked us if was that big of a deal, and if he missed a lot not being there. Well, the consensus on the table was that being able to watch our children being delivered to this world is one of the most important moments in the life of a father, and that yes, he has missed a huge thing, and that he lost one of hugest milestones in a marriage. After that, Jake went a bit quiet and left shortly after. 2 days later, Jake asks me if he can stay with me for a few days because he needed a bit of space from Amy. Amy called my wife crying and she went to her house to talk with her a bit. After that, Jake arrived at our home, and that's when he told me that he wanted to be in the delivery room, but with COVID restrictions only one person was allowed and Amy chose her mom. Apparently he tried to argue with her, but she was adamant, and in the end he was not allowed in the birth room. Jake told Amy what he heard at the bar. They got into a big fight and currently Jake is considering a divorce. Needless to say that Amy is furious at me and my wife is currently giving me the silent treatment. She said that I probably ended their marriage. I feel really bad with this whole thing, especially with a baby in the middle. Am I the asshole? Edit. Jake is a surgical nurse. He already helped to deliver other people babies. I guess that this adds salt to the wound. Not the asshole. If this was enough to end their marriage, it can't have been a good one. Edit. Added judgment. Not the asshole. You guys had a talk in a bar. Whatever other bubbling issues that were also present that combined with him not being in the delivery room were decided without any of your input. Her choosing her mom over the father were also not your doing. His discussion with not just you but this group of men just helped him realize how upset he was about it. You bear no responsibility for this at all. Your wife is blaming you for someone else's actions and reactions. Not cool. You and your friends were kind of tactless by continuing to gush about how much he missed out on after you realized he hadn't been there. Guys have successfully fathered for generations without being there at the birth, although I fully support them being there when it's okay with the mother. That said, there's no way this is the one thing that caused divorce. You're married. You know relationships are more complex than that. The consensus on the table was that being able to watch our children being delivered to this world is one of the most important moments in the life of a father, and that yes, he has missed a huge thing, and that he lost one of hugest milestones in a marriage. Info. Why was an entire group of men trying to make this new dad that they just met feel bad? The birth already happened and he can't go back in time. What was the point of that conversation besides from making him feel insecure? Especially when he had just met most of those people. It sounded like he'd made his peace with the struggle of having a child during a pandemic, and the conversation made him second guess. He's not any less of a father for having not witnessed the child's uterine escape. It was Amy's choice who she wanted to support her in the delivery room, and she chose her mom. Jake is somehow making what Amy went through about himself, and you guys haven't helped matters at all. I don't blame Jake for being sad that he couldn't be with his wife on the big day. Plenty of fathers, like military dads, understand how that feels. But both Jake and you, your friends, are blaming Amy for him not being there when in reality everyone should be blaming freaking COVID for hospitals being forced to change their rules. At least Amy was able to have someone there with her. Some moms have had to deliver with no support person with them at all. Not the asshole. You didn't know the situation and weren't causing the issue. But his wife is seriously shitty for not letting him be there for the birth of his own child. If not being in the delivery room is enough to want a divorce, they have other issues as well. Not the asshole. While I can't call you an asshole, let's be real that you and your buddies fanned the flames of this dumpster fire. Probably, not on purpose, but you still did. And honestly, only thing I can think about reading the absolute sludge of, "How dare she?" comments is, ain't that $1 million question? Why did a woman choose her mother as her best support during intense and grueling ordeal instead of her nurse husband? He is such an ideal and obvious choice. But, let me guess, there probably is much more to the story than, "Woe is me, the poor dad," Jake's side. All in all, I completely agree that their marriage most probably had problems and your wife has exaggerated your influence, even if it was the final nail. Nah. It was their first baby and she was only allowed one person. Usually it's the spouse or the mother of the pregnant lady, and it was her first time giving birth, so I'm not surprised she wanted her mother there. First-time pregnancy and childbirth can be absolutely terrifying, especially if there's a family history of birth complications. He has every right to be upset he missed the birth of his child, but divorcing his wife because she wanted her mom instead of him for this is ridiculous. None of you are even thinking about Amy's feeling in this. She is the one who carried the baby for 9 months and had to deliver it with just her mom and the doctors there. Give her a break, and tell your friend he needs to try and understand why she chose her mother. I am glad I got to watch my kids being born, but the birth should be 100% what the mom wants. I can't even imagine going through childbirth. If you know a guy didn't get to see the birth, maybe be a little bit tactful and don't go on about how amazing it was. Just say, "Yeah, COVID sucks, man," and start talking about sleep schedules or what brand of diapers is best. Jake is the biggest asshole though for walking out on his 2-month postpartum wife because he's mad he didn't get to cut the umbilical. Again, I'm glad I got to see my kids getting born, but if I'd been sick or something and didn't get to see it, it's not something I'd spend much time thinking about. Not the asshole. You nor your group of friends had any idea that this was brewing under the surface. Like it or not, this probably would have come up. Whether it's earning of a divorce? That's totally up to them. Just try to be supportive of your friends. Not the asshole. But if this is ending their marriage, there are deeper issues. Maybe some of these issues were the reason she chose her mom, maybe not. But either way, you did nothing wrong. He did miss a huge moment. She caused that. He has every right to feel the way he does. Unless he was not fit to be her support person. If it was simply that she wanted her mom there more, or her mom wanted to see her grandchild born, then that was incredibly selfish. Not the asshole. Seems like he's carried this resentment for several months. It would have come up eventually, I'm guessing, regardless of this conversation with your friends. Not the asshole. You don't have the power to end someone else's marriage. This is between them. Not the asshole. Your friends and you gave your opinion as you saw it as fellow fathers. Jake was already feeling put out because his wife chose her mother in the delivery room over him. Frankly, I think it isn't a big enough deal to get divorced over. But if Jake is considering divorce, I guarantee it is not just for not being there in the same room for the birth of his child. There is some other long-standing issue. Maybe his wife never chooses him or sidelines him for important decisions and events. Maybe her parents have an outsized influence in their new family. Who knows, but it's not your fault. Not the asshole. If their marriage is ending over this, it was a pretty weak marriage to begin with. Not the asshole. Your wife needs to remember that when the discussion first started, you had no idea what had happened. Also, this obviously bothered him even in the moment, but it was your guys' discussion that made him feel like his feelings of being left out were validated, which of course they are. But that is certainly not your fault. You haven't caused their divorce. People don't just break up over such small things. There is most likely a much deeper issue, and maybe you guys just lit the fuse. So not the asshole there. But this is where I think you might be the asshole. Knowing he missed the birth then going on about how amazing it is and how much he missed was pretty insensitive. I think I'd have totally played it down in the same situation. COVID-19 is the asshole. Not the asshole. Jake asked you and your friends a question and you answered it honestly, without knowing his motivation for asking and the bitterness he harbored. His upset about not being there during the birth is a problem which he should have talked about with Amy himself earlier and probably isn't the sole reasoning behind something as significant as a divorce. Watch our children being delivered to this world is one of the most important moments in the life of a father, and that yes, he has missed a huge thing and it that he lost one of hugest milestones in a marriage. JFC guess my dad is a shit husband for not being in the room when me and my siblings were born then? They clearly had other issues to divorce over, but my God, to say not being present as a missed milestone is like telling childless couples not having children is a missed milestone. Not the asshole. I know this will crush my karma, but if my wife chose her mother over me seeing our children being born, I would be a single dad pretty quick. Not the asshole. What you all said is very true. Being in the room is a big part, and as much as her mother probably really wanted to be there, he kinda had a right to be there as he is the other parent. But, if this is all it take to break them up, it was either a very weak marriage, or there was more going on in the background and this was the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back. I hope for their kid that they can resolve their issues. Raising hands medium light skin tone. Raising hands medium light skin tone. Not the asshole. You were trying to engage your friend in a conversation, and when asked a loaded question answered truthfully. Also, you probably didn't know the whole backstory, and couldn't have figured this. Personally, I understand why your friend is upset, but what he does because of those feelings is up to him, and solely his decision. Man, this is wildly unpopular, but you are the asshole. And to be clear, you and the friends aren't responsible for breaking up a marriage. But going on about how it's the greatest thing ever and a milestone in a marriage is not just rude, it's downright mean. Giving birth is scary. Women die. Sometimes in life we just need our mom there to feel safe. That shit is biological. It's not like this is a decision she would have made pre-COVID. She is the one giving birth. Her safety and comfort matters more. Not the asshole. I was really waiting for this to go some other direction with the girls' night, or something else, but this sounds like they had a problem that you had no idea about and definitely didn't cause. Going on and on about how amazing that moment was and how it's one of the most important moments in a father's life after you just heard he missed out on it was rather tactless. But obviously, while you caused him pain, you did not cause the issue or their divorce. If they do go through with it, that will be their decision and likely due to more than just this. Since we're not in that marriage and we don't have either of their version, I won't judge them. Not the asshole. You guys as fathers were discussing about the birth of your fucking child. It's just plain obvious of how important that moment is to some people. I understand that she chose her mom to be present, but as a parent of that child, Jake deserves every right to be in that room. Personally, I wouldn't consider not being there at the exact moment that the child popped out as the biggest milestone for a parent. There are a life-load of moments and joys to be experienced with his child. Not the asshole. Not your fault he didn't go in the birth room. If this is enough to end their marriage, it can't have been a good one. With coronavirus, however, there should have been not much made of the fact he missed the birth. You missed it. Yes, it's nice to witness, but with coronavirus it is understandable, so maybe you will see baby no. 2 being born. Not the asshole. Seems like their relationship was already on the brink of breaking. You just became their excuse. If they really get divorced, maybe it will be their new beginning and eventually they'll thank you. Because everything happens for a reason. Anyway, don't blame yourself on this. Not the asshole. I'm willing to bet this was the straw that broke the camel's back. While yes, being present during labor is a huge milestone, most won't get divorced over this argument. Nah, maybe if you can tell that a person is really upset about not being in the birthing room due to pandemic restrictions, not a good time to go over how it's the most important event in your life. Maybe the mother just wanted another mother to guide her through the birth process, and when forced to pick between husband and mother, chose mother. Or, perhaps mother was also worried about COVID and wanted at least one parent not in the hospital, so if the mom gets sick, father can help with the child still. That being said, it sounds like this was a much bigger fight, and the fact that you brought it up doesn't change that he's already been thinking about it for months. Honestly, I'm gonna go against the grain here and say you are the asshole, because even if she was allowed to have someone else in there, she didn't want anyone in there, and that's her choice. But the bigger issue I see is that you guys made him feel like absolute shit over something not in his control. Of course, like the top comment said, if that was enough to end their marriage then it probably wasn't that great. But you guys still went above and beyond to rub something in his face and give him a totally twisted view of what marriage and being a father is supposed to be that encouraged him to distrust the entire marriage. Not the asshole. It sounds like they were already having problems. Adoptive mom here. I was in the room when my son was born and my husband wasn't. It's only a big deal if you make it one. NTA. The conversation was bound to come up. Maybe push them to counseling if you can. You are the asshole. If someone asks if it's a big deal that they couldn't do something that's a once-in-a-lifetime experience that was not their fault for missing, just an unfortunate circumstance, you choke on your words and you tell them it's fine. I don't care how you feel. He can't go back in time and see his child's birth, and as a friend you needed to help him be okay with that, not make him feel worse. I know everyone's saying that their relationship must not have been great, but every relationship is strained when the firstborn is 2 months old. Everyone's running on no sleep and trying to adjust to a whole new life. Even the best relationships get tested. You know that. Your description makes it clear that Jake was having a really tough time, and then you go and make it worse. Not the asshole. Maybe there are some other issues, deep-rooted feelings there. Not the asshole. Your wife needs to remember that when the discussion first started you had no idea what had happened. Also, this obviously bothered him even in the moment, but it was your guys' discussion that made him feel like his feelings of being left out were validated, which of course they are. But that is certainly not your fault. Not the asshole. Why is Jake so incredibly selfish? You said he was a nurse too. He should be ashamed. Birth is one of the most traumatic experiences. A lot of women want their mothers as one. They've been there for all or most of their scary moments and medical procedures in life, and it's the exact same experience. A mother helping her daughter become a mother is actually one of the oldest bonding experiences on the planet. I get it, he wanted to be there, but she had every right to think of her feelings instead of his giving birth. She didn't start the pandemic, she could only choose one. Sounds like Jake has been waiting for an out. Not the asshole. I'd guess that Jake always comes second to his wife's family, and he's decided that he's had enough of it. Amy needs to blame someone other than herself for her choices, so you're the lucky target. I just think that if someone is front of my visibility upset about missing something that they don't have, I wouldn't be going out of my way to make it seem like a big deal. In fact, I would do all I can to decrease the hurt of the other person. So while you aren't wrong here, I do think not reading the dude and adding on to make it seem like it's a huge milestone is you are the asshole. In our culture, men typically aren't present, and it doesn't mean they lose any part of being a father. Not the asshole. Chances are there were other things that actually played into this possible divorce. If a guy so distraught with the fact that he couldn't be there for his daughter's birth, due to no one's fault, has no issue with leaving said daughter once he and his child's daughter have a disagreement, then it feels to me like he's much more interested in having his imagined perfect dad experience rather than actually being there for his child. Not the asshole. You didn't cause anything. Even people who are not parents understand that the moment of birth is a big deal. That's why we celebrate our own birth every year. He knew it, he wanted to be there, she rejected that and chose her mother. She can't blame you or any of your buddies for this one. Not the asshole. You did nothing wrong here, you answered his questions honestly. I would suggest to try to push him to counseling first before going for divorce. Ultimately, I believe that the one giving birth has a right to decide who's in the room with them. That said, this decision of choosing the mother to be present could be a sign of Amy choosing her mother over Jake consistently. But they need to sort that out in a professional environment. Not the asshole, but as a surgical nurse who has helped other people deliver babies, How can Jake not have known how important it would be to cut the cord, be in the delivery room? Apparently he didn't do Lamaze classes, co-birthing with Amy either. If they did, it would make much more sense for him to be there than Amy's mom. So, not the asshole, but something sounds off here. Not the asshole. You tried to do something nice and include him. The friend made a comment that I consider innocent and not an issue either. It seems the issue here is between him and his wife. Personally, I would probably be hurt too if my wife chose her mother over me in the delivering of our child. They need to work this out and not blame you for trying to include him in an event. NTA, but it remembers me of my birth. The nurses didn't want to let my dad in and he said I am going to be there when my child is born and he simply went inside anyways. Not the asshole. You only told him how you were feeling about it. That's precisely what friends are for. The problem is his wife. Not you.